I would like to share with you this morning a few ideas on how you can help prevent motion sickness in your kids. I thought about this motion sickness because what happened, I'm not in my usual setting this morning. We are on holiday, and as we were driving here, it was quite a long drive. I had the kids in the car, and I realized that I'm always applying sensory strategies. I just do it by nature. So this morning I thought I would share some of these ideas with you because I want to make sure that my kids don't get car sick on the long drive. And also, actually, what happened to me is I really struggled with car sickness on the way here because I wasn't driving. So I want to just tell you what causes car sickness as I understand it, and then what are the sensory strategies you can apply to help prevent it or to make it better once you start feeling a bit queasy. So basically what happens when you are driving in a car or riding in the back seat, it's also different where you're sitting and whether you're driving or not. There's basically a mismatch between what you see, so what you get from your visual system and what you get from your vestibular system. So the vestibular system is basically your movement sense. It sits in your inner ear and it picks up head movement. So whenever your head is moving, it picks up that movement. So when you get car sick, there's a mismatch between the visual information and the vestibular information, and that causes you to feel nauseous. Or in some people it causes headaches and so on. So what makes car sickness worse normally is acceleration, deceleration, or if there's a quick change of direction. When you're driving down a pass, it would normally cause motion sickness if you struggle with that. So it's a change of direction, it's acceleration, deceleration, or if it's frequent stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. That also, so it's the constant acceleration, deceleration. Sometimes even as the gears change and there's a slight change in the movement, that can also be, if you're really sensitive to movement, that can cause you to feel car sick. What can we do to help prevent the car sickness? When you're sitting in the back seat, it's much worse than when you're sitting in the front seat. And if you're driving, usually you're fine. But once you're not the driver, you start feeling queasy. Why is that? If you're sitting in the back seat, you can't see what's coming so well. So if there's maybe a speed bump in the road, or there are twists and turns in the road, you don't see them coming. So there's no anticipation. You can't prepare yourself for what's coming. But if you're in the front seat, you can see, oh, there's a speed bump, and you can anticipate the movement, and then you feel it. So there's like a preparation. It's like your brain is able to prepare itself for what's coming now. But when you're in the driver's seat, it's even better because now firstly, you're in control of the movement. So you know exactly at what speed you're going to drive, how fast you're going to take this corner, and if you're going to go, if there's a bump in the road or if there's a turn coming, you see everything. So you really anticipate the movement. But also the other thing that changes everything is when you're holding the steering wheel, you are constantly working against resistance. So as you hold the steering wheel, there is, as you know, there's always a bit of a resistance. So what's happening is you're actually applying proprioception, or you're activating the proprioceptive system, which overrides the vestibular system. So in normal English, the proprioceptive system is basically, it's activated when you work against resistance, when there's hard muscle work involved. This is not very hard muscle work, but as soon as your muscles are activated and you're actively working against resistance, then you activate the proprioceptive sense or system. The vestibular system, which is, like I said, the one that picks up head movement, is, let's say, inferior to the proprioceptive system, if I can say it like that. So that's like your golden key to overcoming motion sickness. So it won't always work. Some people have real severe motion sickness, and you might need to take a tablet to prevent it. If the sensory strategies are not working, I always like to go the conservative route before I go to medication. However, I do feel that if the sensory strategies do not work and you really struggle with motion sickness, you might want to consider taking a tablet to help you. Otherwise, that car sickness is a terrible feeling. What are more ideas of how can we do this in the car? So if you're not driving and you're sitting in the passenger seat or in the back seat, what I always have in the car for my kids is I always have something that they can chew on, um, and something that they can play with. But I think about the proprioceptive sense, and I think, what can they chew that works against resistance? So if it's something really chewy, like dried mango, or biltong sticks are great. Or if you don't mind giving them some sugar, you can use bubble gum, or some really chewy sweets like wine gums. Not the soft gums sweets, because they don't give as much resistance when you chew. But if it's something that you really have to work quite hard chewing on, then you're activating the proprioceptive sense. You're also using your oral system. So your oral system is also a good regulator. So it helps to regulate you, to regulate your system, okay, neurologically. Something also for the proprioceptive sense is if you can get a toy, something that gives resistance. So the basic ones that I like to use, I have these like sensory toys that you can get from Pick and Pay or Crazy Store or whatever. It's like a resistive thing that you can pull and it stretches. Something else you might actually have in the house is these exercise bands that they use for resistive exercise. You can use that if they can play with that. You could even tie it around wherever the child's sitting. You can maybe tie it around the front seat and they can pull on that. It might irritate you a little bit, but it might help them with their motion sickness. So just weigh it up. Resistive therapy putty. So sometimes you get like a tough therapy putty that you could also use. And the other one was what I actually often use in therapy. Once a child is overstimulated by movement, then if I see or they are being overstimulated a bit, then I let them quickly sit down and I tell them, put your hands on your head. If they're starting to feel dizzy, I say, put your hands on your head and press down hard and just hold it like that. And you're activating your neck muscles to keep you're pressing up with your head basically and down with your hands. Then you are activating your muscles and you're working against resistance. It helps. It's helped many children in therapy. So that's something else you could apply. Okay, that is the proprioception. Let's go back to the mouth. What else can we use in the mouth? There are really some good ones that you can easily use in the car. So we've talked about the chewy things, resistive chewing. Now something else that's also helpful is something that's really cold. So I've definitely, if I see my kids are struggling, then I stop by the nearest shop and I buy an ice lolly. If you don't mind them eating something like that in the car, it might be messy, whatever. Like I say, weigh it up. Decide what's most important to you in that moment. But like an ice lolly or something is great. That cold from the ice really helps. Otherwise, have something in a cooler bag in the car, like frozen berries or frozen peas. My kids love frozen peas. Or icy cold water. All right. Then again, when it comes to the cold water or something to drink, if you let them drink something through a straw, especially when it's a slightly thicker liquid, like drinking yogurt, they have to suck quite hard to be able to get it out of the carton. So if they drink and they're sucking, you are activating the proprioceptive sense again. So there you go. Sucking on something or something that's really cold. You could also use a sports water bottle where they have to suck through that mouthpiece to get the water out. Something like a strong mint. So you could use anything. You could use chewing gum if you wanted or whatever, but something that is a really strong mint, if they don't mind that taste, that can actually also help. It gives you like a like a freshness that actually takes the nausea away sometimes. So you could try that. I know for myself, cold air on my face really works. So if I'm sitting in the front seat, I put the aircon on full blast and I put it right on my face and I let it like really cool me down, and that helps. Or if I turn down the window and I just let the fresh air blow on my face, that's also helpful. Of course, to if you see that these strategies aren't working, and in brackets, I would usually use them preventative. I won't only start applying them once my kids are already feeling queasy or nauseous. I would have them at hand as soon as they start getting just a little bit like irritable, maybe in the back of the car, or it feels like the drive's getting too long, or they're starting to ask to get out of the car seat. Then I start offering all these things from the front and I just start passing it to the back. So I have them as a preventative measure. But what was I going to say? Oh, of course, if these strategies aren't working and they are still not feeling well, just take frequent breaks as you driving. Um, Go slowly around corners. Just keep in mind that that acceleration, deceleration, and change of direction, it makes it worse. So if you can just drive really gently, it's not necessary that we have to go slowly, although it does make a bit of a difference because then your turning won't be as severe. But it's not necessarily the speed, but it's the change of direction and that fast slow. So just keep that in mind as you're driving, or take frequent breaks and let them just get out of the car. um, a last one that I'll mention, and then I'll be done, is it is also actually helpful in some cases to lie down flat on the back seat. And the reason that helps is it has to do with, so let's say your vestibular system basically consists of these semicircular canals, and they're filled with fluid. And when you have when you like moving your head, it activates the movement of the fluid, and that stimulates the vestibular system, the movement sense. Okay, but as soon as you lie flat, then there's less movement in the fluid. So it helps to lie flat on your side or flat on your back. I actually prefer lying on my side. I think it makes a difference. But if you lie flat on the back seat with your head horizontal, that's actually also helpful. So there you go. Some ideas for you to help your children or yourself to prevent motion sickness. And I really hope that it'll be helpful for you guys. And please share if you've tried these and if they work. I'd love to hear some feedback. Okay, see you soon.